Hey there, friends, and welcome back to another episode with Joshua Lappin Fitness. This, of course, is Josh, and today we are going to talk about a subject that I've been thinking a lot about, and that is the subject of dieting and macros and calorie calculations. So, if you follow along with my history, you know that I am a hard gainer. And what that means is I am attempting to gain strength and muscle, but due to genetic deficiencies in both muscular genetic development and metabolic deficiencies, it makes me a little bit harder for me to accomplish that goal. So one of the things that hard gainers need to especially look into is their caloric intake and their macronutrient balance. Calories are just the units of energy. Macros have to do with how that energy is spread throughout the different macros, which are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So today we're going to take a look at some of these things, and I'm going to show you a couple of easy and convenient tools that I use to help find these measurements and things like that. So what I found here that is helpful is a calculator at calculator.net. You can see the URLs here on the screen. But I'll go ahead and post them in the show notes or descriptions, and you can go take a look at those at your convenience. All right, so what we're looking at here is a calculator, and what you're going to do is simply enter in your information, and it's going to tell you an approximation of where you should be as far as your caloric intake and your macronutrient distribution. Now, this isn't going to be exact, but I think it'll get you pretty close. And if you can get within a good range, then you can go back later and make adjustments as needed. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is enter your age. At the time of this recorded, I am 38 years old. I am a male. I'm approximately 5'11", almost 6 feet, but we'll say 5'11". My current weight, I'm not really sure because I haven't weighed in a couple of weeks, but the last time I weighed, it was around 185. And on this drop-down menu, you can choose how much exercise that you do. If you do little or no exercise, light, moderate, that's what I'm going to select. Active, very active, or extra active. My goal here, here's the different selection that you have: maintain weight, all the way from also choices of weight loss and weight gain. For my purposes right now, I'm going to set it to maintain weight. That is because I'm actually a little heavier than I like to be. So I probably need to go to either maintain weight or weight loss. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But just for the sake of getting us started here, we're going to go with maintain weight at this current exercise level. We'll hit calculate. And what it does is going to spit out down here what your caloric intake for each day should be. So for this particular example, it should be about 2,600 calories. And this is the big thing that I'm going to show you right here. This is the macronutrient breakdown of what you should be eating per day. Now, I may or may not necessarily agree with this particular setup here, but we're going to play around with it and see how it goes. So the first one is your protein intake. It's got me listed at 159 grams of protein, which is around 0.8, 0.9 grams per body weight. I have a little bit of an issue with that because I generally recommend that you intake about 1 gram of protein per body weight. So I'd like to have it more closer to about 185, but like I said, we can play with that. Carbohydrates are approximately 348 per day, and my fat intake is 74 grams, but if you look here, that needs to be less than 30 grams of saturated fat per day. So keep that in mind with your fat intake. At least half of your fat intake is going to be coming from good fats, not bad fats. Okay, so that's a balanced macronutrient profile, and this will do really well if you reach kind of a place where you want to maintain and you just kind of want to keep your body weight level. Now, if you're attempting to add muscle, I would probably go and select this particular option, the high protein, which is going to flip your macronutrient profile and put you eating quite a bit more protein at the expense of the carbohydrates, but you're still eating almost 300 carbohydrates per day, which is going to be pretty good for you. And you're going to keep your intake of calories around 2,600. So that's a pretty good start there. Like I say, you can just continue to play with it and see where you want to be. Like I said, I am a little bit heavier than I want to be. So if I go down here and put it to 175 and hit calculate, for a balanced intake, it's going to take me down to about 2,500 calories per day, which is a lot closer to what I'm actually consuming right now. And if I flip that to high protein, that's going to boost me up to 200 grams of protein per day and take my carbs down to 288. And that should put me in a good place for some growth, but at the same time, not too fast. So like I said, if you go pull up this calculator, you can play around with the settings and kind of come up with a good option of what you think might work. Then the trick is to actually build out some recipes that will support your macronutrient profile. That's going to take some work. It's going to take some tracking of what you eat, maybe in a journal or a spreadsheet, whichever works for you. And it's going to take a couple of weeks to really dial this in. So once you come up with kind of what you're going to eat and make sure it's all balanced out, then try it for a few weeks and see what happens. Whatever your goal was, if it's maintain, lose, or gain, you should be able to tell within about 2 or 3 weeks if you're on the right track. If you're trying to maintain, if you're staying around where you wanted to be, that should be fine. Just keep in mind that your body weight can fluctuate a pound or two a day up or down, and that's normal. That doesn't mean anything in particular is wrong with your diet. If you start losing weight or not gaining weight, if that was your goal, just simply add about 200 calories per day and go another few weeks and see what happens, and then adjust as necessary. If you're looking to lose weight and you're not seeing that, go the opposite way, cut about 200 calories per day, go for about 2 weeks and see what happens, and make adjustments as necessary. So this isn't going to be an overnight process. It's going to be a little bit of an experimental process to find exactly where the ideal place is for you. So you just have to play around with it, and within about 6 weeks, 2 months, you should have this thing really dialed in. Now, there's another calculator off the same website that I also wanted to show you. This is a body fat calculator, and I found this one really interesting. It was interesting because it gives you an idea of where you should be as far as your body fat intake. Now, if you're following this channel, you know that we're athletically minded. We're interested in health and fitness, bodybuilding, strength training. So our body fat composition, we're going to want to be somewhere in the fitness or athletes range here. That's kind of our goal. So we're going to have to play around with this to really try to figure out where we should be. The reason why I wanted to show you this in conjunction with the other calculator is because once you play around with this, you may find that you need to go back and adjust your macros to reflect what's going on here, because this is your body fat calculations. So once again, you go in there and you just fill in your information. My weight right now is about 185, which I'm going to tell you is going to be a little on the high side. Let's see, we're 11 inches. Now this one's a little tricky here because you have to divide this thing between feet and inches. So you have to do a little bit of converting. I'm going to say my neck is approximately 16 inches right now, which is 1 foot and about 4 inches. It's not wanting to cooperate. And then my waist is probably about 36 inches, which is 3 feet. We'll hit calculate. And as you can see, I am a little bit above the fitness level. Now, what I generally recommend for a body fat percentage for athletic people who train consistently is that you keep your body fat percentage in the 12 to 15% range. Now, that's pretty lean. And if you're in that range, you should be able to see a light outline of your abdominal muscles. Not super ripped now, but you should be able to see a nice outline without flexing, and definitely when you flex. So if we go back and look at my calculations here, I'm going to need to adjust that. I found last summer that at 175, that was kind of where that I wanted to be, is where I could start seeing the abs. So if I drop that to 175, that would probably drop my neck down to about 15 inches. Waist would probably go down to about 33, which is, I can figure this in my head here, 2 feet, which is 24 inches. And then, let's see, 33 minus 24 is 9. And we hit calculate. And that takes me right down to 15%, which is where I want to be. So you have to play around with this and kind of experiment to figure out where you want to be. So if I come back to my macro calculator here, so really this is exactly where I need to be. With moderate exercise, I want to maintain my weight. I want to be 175. So I need to be eating approximately 2,500 calories per day. I tend to like to have it spread a little bit more towards the high protein side because we're going for muscular growth, strength, and development. Now, you can play around with this a little bit. If I go over here and just mess around with my proteins, let's take it to 175. I like that. So here you kind of customize it to a little bit to more where I like to be. 1 gram of protein intake per day per body weight. Carbs balanced, fats balanced, still maintaining my 2,500 calories per day intake. And that should do me really well. So take a look at this calculator and play around with it. And I think it'll give you some really good insights on where you want to be as far as your eating and your macronutrient profiles. Check back later for some other videos where we'll actually go into some, we're already starting to put them up, recipes. And at some point I'll drop in my spreadsheet where I do my food tracking. You can see exactly what I eat per day and kind of how that's divided up. So again, this is Josh from Josh Lappin Fitness, and I hope this has been helpful for you. Check out our website, joshlappinfitness.com, and I hope to see you around very soon on our website or some of our social media platforms.